Hello, everyone. Welcome to Rhythms of Access podcast. Basically, this is a podcast where disabled artists and musicians open up about their experiences navigating disability, access, and artistry in the music world. This podcast is brought to you by Blurring the Boundaries Arts and Cameron, as well as the Shirk Grant of Canada. Today, we're joined by a very special guest, Jo-anne Cox. She is a dynamic composer, performer, and electric cello innovator based in London, UK. And Jo-anne's work spans electronic, experimental, folk, and contemporary classic music. She has quite a unique performance, and she also incorporates looping beats and melody to create immersive sonic worlds that captivate audiences. Jo-anne, welcome.
Hi, Gift. Lovely to be here. Thank
Yeah,
you.
so great to see you. It's been a long time, I think, since we last chatted, and I was just elated to hear you say yes to be joining the podcast.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely been too long.
Yes, absolutely. Awesome. So, usually when I have my guests here, I like to start with a little icebreaker question just to get people, have a little bit of an idea of who you are and get a little personal with you beyond, your artist self. So, if it's okay, I'm just going to start off with the quick icebreaker question and we get a little like window of who you are. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you.
All right. So, can you tell us about the first piece of music that made you feel truly seen or inspired? And what about that piece resonated with you?
I think that the first piece that really resonated with me was actually when my parents took me to see an orchestra, and I don't even remember the music, but what I remember is watching the cellists and their fingers flying up and down the fingerboard, like I thought was like a spider moving up and down, and that really inspired me. Yeah, so it was a visual thing. I think later on, I think it was the Elgar cello concerto. Particularly the depth of emotion in it, and it's linked to England. I was living overseas at the time, and I'd grown up in England, so I was struggling a bit with my identity as a teenager. So yeah, it meant something for me for where I was from as well. And then I think later after that, when I played with London Breakbeat Orchestra in nightclubs, I think that as part of a group, I felt really, really seen. That I would. That was at a time of my life when I had support workers coming around here that I hadn't chosen who they were. It was kind of like enforced on me, and they just turn up any time. And one time I was like getting ready to go to work, and I said, I can't see you, I've got to get ready to work now. And just closed the door and got on with getting ready to go to work. And that came back to me a week later as Jo-anne slammed the door in our face. And so I think that having that, and then being able to go and perform in a nightclub with the orchestra and just think, yeah, this is me, and you can't get to me here, I'm me. And yeah, that I felt really seen with that.
That's incredible. That's really incredible. That's a very a diverse way of getting into the scene. That's really cool.
Thank you.
The way you got into that, and how did your journey with music actually begin? Like, what led you to say, okay, I'm going to focus on the electric cello as part of like your creative voice?
Um, I played acoustic cello for years and years and years, and I studied classical. Um, then I was playing with bands, and one time I my cello was on stage doing sound check, and the sound engineer had these great big boots on and walked into it, and um, he, that was after that. I just said like, no more. I'm going to get an electric one, and it was a complete impulse buy. I'd seen someone else that I knew playing a Yamaha on the cello on the TV, and I thought, yeah, they're playing that one. I know they're really good, so I'll buy that. It was complete impulse,
Wow.
and but then from that's how I got into electric cello, and then I went on this whole journey of it, of realizing that it's not it doesn't work well as a substitute acoustic. It's like a whole different instrument in it on its own. And I think that I went to see Tina Guo perform at the Round Chapel in London, and she uses Helix Line 6, and that inspired me to get Helix Line 6. And her sound is absolutely amazing. But that's to do with her as an artist, not just the tools.
Okay.
But I really I got Helix Line 6, and that with my second cello, electric cello, it has more of a resonating chamber, and that with sort of these immersive effects on Helix, that's when I really kind of found my voice as an electric cellist. I think the focus on it, some cellists can play both the acoustic and electric one really, really well and manage having two, or Stephen Sharp Nelson of the piano guys, he's got like about 30 cellos that
Oh,
he's
wow.
really good at. Yeah, he's
That's a
really
lot.
good at all of them, and that's been inspired from ADHD and going on through all these different experiences. But for me and my impairment, I find that if I want to be good at something, I just have to be concentrate on one thing. And
Right.
I think that the cello is a very physical instrument, and I'm 52 now. I'm sort of conscious that I don't know how much time I'll physically be able to handle playing the cello. I'm already sort of getting dodgy knees.
Right.
So, yeah, so I feel, because of my age too, I feel like the electric cello is the thing I really want to achieve in maybe like the next 10 years or so that I have. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I remember seeing it a few years ago. It's a beautiful color. And if you don't mind me asking you this, you don't need to answer if you don't want to, but like, what made you choose purple? Because it's such a nice, deep, beautiful purple cello. I remember it was so vivid when I saw it. I was like, wow, this gives me kind of like Prince vibes to it.
Oh, yeah. I went up this other cello as well. My bridge violin's purple electric
Okay.
cello. That was quite an impulse buy as well. I
Okay.
haven't got loads of money, by the way.
That's all right.
Just
We all have our things.
yeah. But I went up and yeah, I went up to the makers. They live in just outside of Grantham, and I was sort of like, oh, that's pink. I like that one. I'll have that one. And
Yeah.
the guy, I've forgotten his name now, which is a shame.
Hmm.
But yeah, he's been making these beautiful instruments for a very long time. Paul, I think his name is,
Okay.
and he was like very ethical selling, and he was like, no, you can't just sort of come in here and say you want the pink one. This is a big decision. You need to go
Right.
away and think about it. So he told me to get these glossy nail polishes and put them on gloss paper and find the nail polish that I liked. And so I went away. I went into Bootsy Chemist and bought like about 10 different nail polishes at least. And
Goodness.
there was one that was sort of blue and purple. It had a very blue and
Yeah.
purpley, the deep bluey purple or glittery, and I like that one. So yeah, that's the one I sent back to Paul.
So yours is custom colored, basically. It's a custom made
Yes,
color with cello. Wow.
yeah.
That's incredible. I had no idea. I just remember it in awe seeing it a few years ago in person, and I was just mesmerized by it. And that's really cool. So there's
Oh,
only one of those. Basically, that's amazing.
yeah.
Wow,
I'm very
that's really
lucky.
cool. So, as an artist with a disability, navigating the music world, what challenges have you faced, and what victories have made the journey worthwhile for you?
um I've never really been in the mainstream music industry,
Hmm.
but I know there are a lot of access barriers for artists there. When I have done, I was working with quite nice people, and
Hmm.
I've got physical access. So for me, it was enough at the time, but I know it can be a really cruel place for disabled
Mhm.
musicians and very inaccessible. Um, but I think the main barrier now is that with the evolution in technology, um, and people are recording really great quality at home, there's this perception or ideal of the kind of independent artist that writes and records and produces and markets their own music. And then when I look at that, I feel very inadequate, and it's something that I cannot achieve. So for me, perhaps the victory is um, taking that expectation of off myself,
Hmm.
and knowing that what I write and practice to get up to recording, and then having support with recording at home with my PA Valeria.
Wow.
Um, I think that's what a victory is for me, is
Hmm.
taking expectations off myself. But I'm again very
Hmm.
lucky that I've got access to work to support that.
Hmm. And like, how did you, if you don't mind me just to delve in a bit deeper on that, like, how did you realize like what you needed um, to be successful in your work? Like, having a PA, for example, like how did you come to that realization? Because I'm assuming this is not something that you know you started with from the get go within your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is access is a journey,
Hmm.
and for anybody, and but I think for particularly for neurodivergent people that perhaps it, like my diagnosis wasn't until I was like 25,
Hmm.
so I grew up with like again this ideal that society perpetuates it of being completely self-sufficient. And I think it was working with other disabled people and seeing them work with PAs, um, like John Kelly. I think, yeah, just having the amazing other disabled artists around me who I'm seeing them achieve a lot with PAs and them being realistic about their energy and the amount of work they can take on. That's what enabled me just soaking up a really good culture around me.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And just for the listeners, just for context, PA is a personal assistant or personal attendant, depending on the context. So for it to be clear for the listeners out there. Wow, that's really interesting. Thank you, Joe. So I just like to shift gears a little bit here. To talk a little bit about like sensory theater, etc. Like your current project, Enter the Dragon's Cave, which is really cool title, is a sensory theater piece for young people with significant barriers to access, right?
Yeah.
Are you able to share a bit more about its development and what inspired you to create it, to create this project, Enter the Dragon's Cave?
The young people it's for are more sensory learners, and it started off during my residency with Oily Cart. I was very lucky to get that residency, and they're the UK's leading sensory theatre company for young people. So I started off initial experiments with them, and it is very inspired by my show for disabled adults, what a defiant journey, and I really want to celebrate the voices of these young people in the show and the workshops they're doing, and I think it's my job for young people that are more sensory to my job as an artistic leader is to empower, giving them empowering experiences and devising work in collaboration with them, not for them, as Oily Cart would say. They have so much to offer. There's very few accessible opportunities for them, and a big part of what inspires me is that in the pandemic in the UK, people with learning disabilities, as a general thing, they all had automatic do not resuscitate notices put on them without any medical reason for it at all. It was like, no, we don't value these people, it's okay, they've got no quality of life, it's okay, if we don't try and save their life, and that makes me feel really, really fierce, that I want to advocate and provide opportunities for marginalized young disabled people.
Wow, that's incredible. And okay, so now that you explained to me about this project, I'm curious to learn about your creative process. Like your performances, they feel like immersive sonic experiences when I listen to them. Could you share your creative process, like how you bring together looping effects, melody to craft these sonic worlds? Like, how does accessibility inform your work?
um I often start with improvising and exploring textures with my helix, and then from the initial improvisational ideas, I create a structure, and then I experiment with building up the loops and then adding beats. But also, now that I have Valeria actually makes beats for me, really good ones. So now I'm also in the process of having the beats there and then building the cello on to that. I think my music is almost always a response to something quite deep that I'm experiencing. For example, I applied for a position in an inclusive ensemble, quite a high profile one in the UK, and I didn't even get an audition. And I was told it was not because of my cello playing, but because I wasn't the right fit for the material that they were doing. But I think as someone who experiences being neurodivergent in mainstream society, it just, that not the right fit has been reiterated to me in different forms over and over and over and over again. So that made
Yeah.
this example of being not the right fit again, but in a context where I thought I would be accepted. It made it extremely painful. And I ended up writing a piece called Space, which is actually the next piece I want to finish recording and releasing. And because I felt like, well, if I don't fit into an inclusive ensemble, then I must belong in space. I don't belong here at all. Yeah. So, and then I guess my process of like taking the pressure off myself, I think that's what makes my process accessible, and being authentic to my true self. And then I guess this beautiful cello that I have, I want to share it with everyone, because I know what it's like to feel left out. And I also know that the cello just, it can transform into color, it transforms into vibrations, it just transforms into all these different languages. And that's how it reaches, that's how it reaches people. So yeah, I like to make my work accessible when I can. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. Wow. Looking at your career, you've collaborated with so many people on
Yeah.
various projects. Like we all know, you've collaborated with the amazing living legend John Kelly
Yeah.
on Better Later Than Never, and Eleanor Rollins by Divergent Sight and Sound.
Yeah.
What so with these collaborations, like what do accessible and inclusive collaborations mean to you, and how do you make sure that they happen?
I think accessible and inclusive collaborations mean a lot to me, and that's where the most exciting stuff artistically happens. John Kelly's whole project, he designs that with access at the forefront. It was embedded from the start. So other than tell him my access requirements, I didn't have to ensure them. It was a very safe and supportive environment to be in. And it's not just John's um, intellectual perception of what accessibility is and his understanding, which is very deep, but it's also about him as a person, because of who he is as a person that really wants to be inclusive, that really ran through that project. Yeah, so I didn't really have to do much. And the same with Eleanor. Eleanor's a multidisciplinary autistic artist, and she's taught me a lot about neurodivergent processes and autistic processes in making art. And so it's working with her and her creative process is what makes the experience accessible and inclusive to me. So again, it wasn't that I had to really advocate for myself or make the access there. It was already there in the way that she works, and that's why I love creating on projects that she's leading.
Wow, that's amazing. I bet like it's refreshing to work with people and to work on projects where access is designed from the ground up as a foundation and not something that's added on as a last minute
Yeah,
thing. I'm sure that really like yeah is a huge breath of fresh air for you
it
when
is.
you
Yes.
collaborate. Yeah,
Yeah.
wow, that's amazing. Um, so I know you're all about in your work. You're all about inspiring folks um, who have experienced like similar barriers to you, like as you're talking about the Dragon's Cave project and such. Like, I'm wondering, what advice would you give to aspiring disabled artists? Is there anything you wish you'd known when you started your journey? Um, yeah.
I wish I'd known as an artist at the start of my journey that I am okay just the way I am, and that
Mm,
my art is enough, and that there is a need for it. I don't have to live up to the ideal of um, the classical musician with
mm,
a orchestral career and a teaching career and everything. There is, I didn't know at the time, but there is definitely a place for me. I
mm,
wish I'd known that, and
mm,
I wish I'd known that that space would be amazing, and that's because of who I am. Um, my advice to aspiring disabled artists is to believe in who you are and your own process, and to believe that your art and who you are as a human being is like a million times worth a million times more than you think. I think as an artist, like society devalues us. We're not sort of very useful compared to other professions, and we're not economically. They say that we're not, you know, economically making enough money, and then also we're getting it because we're disabled. We're getting that devaluation too. So we're, as humans, we're experiencing a double devaluation, like all the time, like it's around us.
mm.
And yes, I tell disabled artists that you're just worth, you and your work is just worth a million, and all your access and support requirements and different ways of working, they're 100% valid. You're not asking too much. You're not the inconvenience, and you're not the one that needs to change. It's, and
Mm.
yeah, you're not the problem.
Wow, that's incredible. Wow. Thank you so much, Jill.
Thank
Are
you.
there any projects that you're working on that you'd like to highlight that you'd like people to know about before we wrap up?
Yeah, I'm really excited about Enter the Dragon's Cave, and I'm really excited about the music that I'm making, and I hope to release Space next year sometime. Oh, I can't.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah,
That's incredible. We'll definitely let people check out your work. We'll include your website or your music and the description in the episode here for people
thank
to
you.
check out. Joe, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you. And honestly, um, what really resonated with me with what you shared today about how it's important to realize that you are enough as an artist and that your work does not need to fit into the mold that society has created. That like whatever your creative process is enough. I think that's what really stood out for me with the words that you were saying today. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Really, really appreciate you, and yeah, and appreciate the work that you do. and we'll definitely be on a lookout. Please send us any like social handles like Twitter or Instagram,
Yeah, of course.
etc., so that people can follow you.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a pleasure again.
Oh, thank you so much, Gift. It's an absolute pleasure, and I'm a great fan of you and your work.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining the Rhythms of Access today. Please stay tuned for details on the next episode. There'll be further information coming out in the socials. Till then, have a good one. We wish you a great day, evening, wherever you are. Enjoy yourself and know that you are enough in everything that you do. Take care. Bye bye.